72 properties under management since October 2024, and now we are in March 2025. I'm really excited to have Naaman on the podcast today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me all the way from Taz. And I must say, it takes a lot for me to get impressed these days because I really do have high standards. And when I met you in Tassie a few weeks ago, I was very, very impressed by you. So thank
Thank
you
you.
for that. And have been following you, and you've been doing so many incredible things. So before we get into your professional development side and where you are at, for those that do not know you, who
Mhm.
is Naaman?
Well, I'm born and raised in Launceston, in Tassie, pretty much my whole life. So that's sort of where I started. I got into real estate 11 years ago. So previous to that, I was in mechanics. And I have a very colourful sort of background. So my childhood was pretty rough. It wasn't the worst in the world, but it was pretty rough. And just sort of, I have two mentally ill parents. I won't get into the whole spiel about it, but I grew up in housing and I've got two mentally ill parents. So that certainly posed some challenges growing up. Um, so just out of high school, I dropped out of high school in grade 9, and shortly after there started working at McDonald's. And then after McDonald's for a year or two, I went and did my automotive tech course, became a mechanic, or at least the start of a mechanic. Didn't like it. I loved working on cars, but didn't like the repetitiveness of it. And then I ended up in parts, and I love that because I was sort of wearing a shirt and tie a little bit more, and I like that a little bit more sense of purpose, I think, for me. And then I was working really hard in that role, and a guy I was working with left and started working at a truck company. And when he left, I said, "I can keep an eye out for a job for me." A few months later, he called me and said, "Look, I've got a job opportunity for you. I'm going to come around and have a coffee with you tonight." When he told me I had a position, sorry, I had an opportunity to get a position in property management. And I remember I said, "Oh, I don't think it's for me. I'll, I think I'll just, keep with the car stuff." And then I called my sister, who's pretty much the biggest person in my life, or most inspiring person in my life, and mentor. And she was like, "Oh, Nathan, you got to take it because you don't shut up. Like you just talk, talk, talk. So you got to be in real estate." So yeah, so I was an assistant property manager. I got the job, and away I went. And yeah, I've sort of since then just I sort of climbed the ladder a little bit.
Mhm.
I have always given 110% in everything that I sort of do from day one. So right from day one, I remember I was an assistant property manager chasing rent arrears. I remember my department manager at the time, who's a very good friend of mine, who was the gentleman's wife. And so I got the job, or helped me get the job. And I remember I was chasing rent arrears, and then we had so many rent arrears at the agency I was at. And she said I could sell ice to an Eskimo. And I'll never forget her saying that. I thought, oh, okay. Yeah, it's just explaining it. But yeah, started from there and it's climbed up, and I got poached to go to another agency and again, sort of thing. And started managing a small portfolio and then a larger portfolio with an assistant. And then at about year 4 or 5, I actually I went from sort of a medium-sized agency to a more boutique agency that let me spread my wings. And my whole thing at that point was that I loved it and I was doing quite well for my time in the industry. And I started at 18, so I was about 23 at this point. And the role was a BDM role. But what I sort of pitched them, and they agreed with me, was that I'd pitch business, but then I'd manage the business. So I'd be a BDM property management hybrid.
Yeah.
Yeah, which worked exceptionally well. I grew 176 properties in the 2 years that I was there. And then I was offered to go back to the agency that I left to run the rental department for a bigger company.
Mm.
So I did that for the last 3 years, and that pretty much leads up to now. That company was bought out, and somewhere in the mix of that, I did my diploma. Yeah, now and that just stayed with property management. I was always going to go into sales, but I just think that property management's awesome, and not many people really like take it and love it as much as I do. I think,
Mm.
and now with starting this space real estate, it's it's I want to use that to positively influence the industry. That's
Yeah.
pretty much in a nutshell. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
That's it. Not just that's it. Don't downplay it. Like incredible, right?
Oh,
And
thank you.
for anyone listening or watching today, like head over and really check out this Space Real Estate website because this is a website that I really, really do admire because you can see how much you love this space in property management, our profession, and very clever branding. And I think that's what you've done really, really well. So when we talk about branding, because what I love is that you really do have a distinct messaging and branding, and that shows like whether that was meeting you in person, the messaging that came through, or your website or online. So when you had the idea of this space and the branding, like did you seek assistance with your branding or were you so focused on your message, you're like, this is what I'm going to do? Like, how did you
Yeah,
come up with that?
so it was. I have to say, like it was 100% my idea. I definitely took some inspirations from inspiration
Mhm.
from some other agencies, and I suppose one in particular is White Fox. I would definitely say have been a big inspiration to me over throughout my career. I think that they're yeah, they do
Phenomenal
marketing
branding. Yeah.
exceptionally well. Their branding is on point. It's pretty cool. Um, but like the owner of that says, don't copy, but do take some influence from it. So,
Mm.
if anything, I pulled some inspiration from there. But ultimately, yeah, was 100%. It was never going to be this space real estate. I just knew that I wanted to start an agency, and I wanted to make it something that wasn't about me
Mm.
because and I knew that from a fair way back because I saw in property management that property managers in a long way aren't appreciated as much as they should be.
Mm.
So I knew that if we're not property management only, we are at the moment, but we're property management first. So
Mhm.
it's sort of different spin on it. Um, Not that we won't do great things in sales, I'm sure, but we're property management first. And I think
Yeah.
me being, the following the career that I have, that it's property management first. So yeah, the idea around this space real estate was just I just started saying watch this space, and everyone says watch this space, as
Mm.
that's not an uncommon thing. But I started doing it about 5 or 6 years ago. I started the Facebook page and stuff about 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe 9 years ago. I'm losing track a little bit. When I started that was pretty not heard of, especially for property managers. Even for sales agents, it wasn't very common.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it definitely was odd for property managers to do it, but I wanted to do that. And this saying watch this space on everything was sort of just my little tagline. It was just what I found. And somewhere along the line, I was like, oh, watch this space, right? So I'm
Mm.
like telling people to watch this space. In my
Hey,
mind, I
yeah.
knew what it was. No one else really knew what it was. And then the idea was that one day I'm going to get to that point, whenever that might be, and I'll
Yeah.
be like, that's what I was saying. I was saying, watch this space, which
Yeah.
was, and it was something that what it became then, the big thing for me was that I knew then I could tell people in the future that I was planning it 5, 6 years ago. Like it was on
Mm.
my mind then. And I've got sort of little memories and things from that, like years and years ago. So that, yeah, I can say like an idea can become reality.
I
That's
love
the
it.
idea.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant, brilliant. And I always encourage people to have a tagline or to have just a one-liner statement that they can be known for.
Mm,
So I
mm.
think that's a great encouragement for anyone listening today. Is like, what do you want to be known for? What's your tagline?
Yeah.
Like yours is very niche. Like for me and mine is rise, and there's a very
Mm.
special meaning behind that. And a lot of people now, when they see the words rise like on a street sign or something, they'll like take photos and send it to me. And I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
how powerful like branding can be, right?
On that, sorry to butt in. I
Yeah.
had a, I won't say name drop them, but I had someone call me the other day, like, Naaman, um, I'm so upset. I've just seen someone say, watch this space on a post for a property. Like, genuinely. And I was like, oh,
It's
it's
okay.
okay. It's all good. It's not, it's funny. I tried, you laugh, and it's one of those silly things, but I was so keen on this that when I launched the agency, or before, I tried to trademark watch this
Watch your
space. You
face.
can't copyright it. You can't own that. Yeah, it's too commonly used, but I tried. It's funny, I tried. But
That's
no, I
so
was like,
funny.
oh, yeah, it's not, we don't own watch this space. It's just that
Mm,
we are. So when people use it, it helps us get it out a bit. It might be one
absolutely.
day something, you know.
Yeah,
Mm.
very, very clever. I want to talk about your growth, okay? Because I know that, everyone's probably being like, how have you done it? How's Naaman done it? Like, tell me, tell me, tell me. So I know you've got a really impressive background in property management. I know that you're ambitious and driven. You can just tell from the minute that I met you that's who you are, and you are so passionate, and your energy is incredible. So 72 managements now, and we are March 2025. So I've got no doubt that you are continuing to grow and grow. So, how did you do it?
Yeah.
Because I know, because you told me, and
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
incredible.
It, yeah. I think it's a harder sort of question to answer in a way, because I think a lot of it comes as a result of consistency over a
Hmm.
lot of time. So
Hmm.
I've definitely built a bit of a reputation in my area,
Hmm.
and that's really, really important to note, that it's just consistency, just really doing a good job for a long period of time and just continuing on. But more recently, or more relevant, I suppose, to this space, real estate, when I left my other agency, it's pretty common to have a restraint clause. And so I had 6 months off to try to let that, blow over and whatnot, and to try to do the right thing for the agency that I left as well.
For sure.
Um, but I had to think, okay, I've got to build this agency, and it was a very scary situation. It was pretty much the scariest thing I've ever done, was going out and doing that. So again, not from a very wealthy background, so it was a big leap.
Mm.
But no, what I did, so yeah, after some scary nights and whatnot, I thought, how am I going to do this organically? Because I can't accept any of my other clients that I've had over all of the years.
Hmm.
I have to get new clients. I can't let myself accept old clients, because it's just too risky and it's the wrong thing to do. And that's exceptionally hard when I launched and I had those people sort of following and things, and I had to push them away, which was really hard.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, so to narrow down on the actual answer to the question, one of the big things I did was just, I went out and I thought, who will refer business to me? So I scoured through the internet and Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, and found anyone that I've had any sort of connection with, especially that are warm leads, so to speak,
Hmm.
and just pitched to them, basically, whether it be getting on the phone with the director or the right person. I did a couple of sit down meetings and just went and met them. And this was before I launched the business, or just after I launched the business as well. I just sat down, and sometimes I was sitting down with 10 teams of 10 or something, and just pitching to them and saying, hey, this is what I can do. So
Mm.
they're conveyancers, buyers agents, builders, insurance brokers, mortgage brokers, those people that I can give value to. So
Mm.
it's like, hey, don't just throw me a bone for the sake of it, and I think I try to, if I can, sort of steer away from the, oh, poor me, I just started an agency. I
Mm.
come in and say, look, this is what I can do for you.
Hmm.
And yeah, and also sales agents that don't have property management departments are a big one as well.
Yeah.
Help, basically. So what the conversation is typically, the same. It's a little bit different depending on who it is, but I can do rental appraisals, I can give your investors advice and hold their hand through situations when they're buying a property. Um, I can do viewings for them depending on what's going on. I can arrange tradespeople if they need it. I can, just give advice. I can just chat. So yeah, that's pretty much when I hit the pavement. I had like roughly 100 coffees, a bit more than
Incredible.
100 coffees in 30 days. It was mental. I actually had, it's a funny story, but I actually had a couple of times where I was in a cafe, and so my KPI for myself was like, book coffees. I say coffees, but now I change it, not just have waters, like be healthy.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah, it's risky. I got heart palpitations, but I had a KPI. I was like, okay, I've got to block in 4 to 5 people that day.
Mm.
And on the 2 or 3 days of the week that I had, because this is when I started out, so I had no listings. I didn't have a lot to do
That
really.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and this one, a couple of times I've had cafes where I book people back to back at the same cafe. It's quite awkward because if you can't tell, I talk a lot. And that
You're run
45-minute block,
over.
hey,
Run over.
yeah. And I had to, because it was the same cafe, I had to be like, okay, you go now. They've got to sit down because the new person would come into the cafe and I'd see them like, it was so terrible. So I learned to do different cafes and, and it helped me with time management things as well and cutting meetings shorter. But that's it. And that was how I built a lot of the business. I think buyer's agents were the most successful. I've got about 3 buyer's agents that I really work with now that are mainland based, one's local, and they're big, because I can help them in a big way and they can help me in a big way. And when I say I don't just give them rental appraisals, like I go the extra mile every time that they need me.
Mhm.
So, if they say, hey, what's the legislation for this? We've just got a quick question. I'll give them the real answer and maybe a link to the legislation. I don't just go, oh, it's
Brilliant.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it. Yeah. Referrals the big one. Then after that, it was a bit of marketing. It's Google, it's understanding, it's having a website and having processes.
Yeah. And your website, like I said, it's incredible in terms of SEO and how much information you have. And talking about one of your referral partners,
Mm.
I love on your website, you've got like a mortgage calculator there,
Yeah.
and the opportunities to collaborate with these people who are, extension of your business and vice versa.
Yep.
I'm curious because I know what I love about you and your business model is that you can really clearly identify your points of differences and the
Mhm.
value that you provide. That's not the norm. And I'm just going to say it. It's not the norm.
Yep.
Things that you're
Yep.
doing is way above standard. And I haven't seen any businesses go to the level where you are at, right? And you would classify yourself as a boutique agency at the moment, but I dare say that the level you are at the moment is again impressive. QR codes on was it key rings, I think, that I read?
Yeah, I've got. I should have brought one, but
So tell me about those.
yeah. So, one of the things that we do is I just before we launch business ordered a bunch of keyrings. We've got about 150 of them or something, and they've just got our logo on the front and on the other side there's a QR code, and they're durable material. Basically, they look classy. They're not too expensive, but they're sort of that middle range. And that QR code goes to the website. So the idea was that when a tenant moves into their property, they're given one of these keyrings with a little, we do a box of chocolates at the moment, but we'll upgrade our gifts. So we've got a little bit more revenue. And and so scanning that QR code allows them to report maintenance.
Mm,
So, and go straight to that portal where they can
yeah.
report maintenance. It just means that it's the keys are in the pocket always,
Mm,
typically. And so it's always on them. And it's marketing, obviously, it's branding as well.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
And so good that they don't have to like get their like go on the computer to find the QR code. It's like literally something tangible, which is what I
yeah,
love. It's really clever.
yeah.
The other thing that there was so many. I guess actually I'll leave it to you, right? Because so
Yeah.
what else do you think is one of your biggest points of value? Because like there was a whole list of things that you had.
Yeah. It's funny. I just sat out with an owner prior to this meeting and she has 10 properties and I was talking all about our points of difference. Um, we have the landlord portal. I think that's pretty common.
Hmm.
It's becoming more and more common. I talk a lot about procedures, and my biggest thing at the moment is like, hey, is it just you? Which it pretty much is at the moment. We're about to hire in the next month. Watch this space. But but yeah, I have to explain our processes and how we use basically automations. So software like Monday.com is a game changer. There's other ones out there, but Monday is the one that we use. And if you create your checklists on Monday and set up your right automations, it'll tell you when you need to do things. So as long as you start your checklist, which all property managers should be running on checklists,
Mm.
then yeah. And I learned that because I was running the rental department at this other bigger agency. So I had 6 people. And I remember sitting in that seat straight away. I was like, oh, I'm way out of my depths here. Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to keep on to 6 people? We had 5 and then it grew to 6. But it was like, and that Monday was like game changer because it told me when to chase people up
Give
based on
you
their
the info.
checklist.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So they start the checklist and then I know what to do, when to do it,
Yeah.
sort of thing. So that helped heaps. But points of difference, I think we market better. We use virtual tours on every listing. So I've got,
Yes, that was the biggest one I remember. Yeah, it's a big one.
yeah, and digital locks. So, I mean, this is probably our most prized possession, and I've sort of been planning it for a few years, but I won't get into the how we set it all up and whatnot because it'll be a long story. There was a lot of thinking. It's not just oh, we'll do this. It was a lot of planning and thinking and legal work and contracts and understanding legislation and all sorts of stuff. But we install digital locks as a service to almost every rental property that we take on,
Mhm.
which allows us to. So with a virtual tour, it basically allows us the ability, and I'll say the ability, to rent a property remotely in minutes.
Mm.
So properties online, so someone can apply online as they usually do. We sort of funnel it down to one spot. We process the application. Let's just say the application's great. They've viewed it from Sydney virtually. Their application's great. They're approved. They're sent a lease. They digitally sign the lease. They pay their rent. They pay their bond. They can move in the next day because the digital lock's
Because
there.
you're lucky,
And
you
the
don't
next
have
day
to go
might
anywhere.
exactly. And I don't even have to be there.
Yeah.
So it only really works with the right quality properties, and there's some things to work. But generally, we've done it about 3 times already since October,
Mm.
and they might be moving in a Sunday morning or a Saturday night or whatever it might be,
There's no limitations.
right? So, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. So pitching that, it's a hard sell though because it is a huge point of difference, but it's at a cost to the owners. So
Yeah, but
another
like
thing to sell.
I think what you've done though is you put yourself in also the tenants um like minds, like who necessarily we don't have the time necessarily to be picking up keys during the day from an office.
And that's where it
You
came
know?
from. I would watch tradespeople come in to get keys, and there's all the keys are out. And how many times do you have a heat pump service, but you've also got the smoke alarm service, and you've got the repair, the plumber's getting it as well.
Yeah.
It is a nightmare for tradespeople to come in and they get to reception and they say, "Where's the keys?" And the keys are
Yeah.
gone, and then they booked it in with a tenant.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare. So yeah,
And tradies are starting to charge now to go to offices to collect keys,
correct.
and so they should. So that's an expense that we're not passing on to our owners
Mhm.
by eliminating that. And I think anyway, in terms of security,
Mhm.
digital locks are great because yeah, you don't have to change the keys each
Yeah.
tenancy. If you're going to sell your property in the future, well, it's a value add there anyway.
Mm.
Like I don't know, like I'm in Vic, but there's not many homes that have digital locks. I remember years ago our locksmith was talking about them. And
Mm.
I think it's the way forward. Like I think we'll see more and more homes um,
Yeah.
having the digital
Uh,
locks.
And so the ultimate goal of what I'm trying to do with this is actually staff retention. So
Mm.
it's brilliant for leasing, it's brilliant for the management, but
Mm.
I believe it just completely changes the role for property managers because it'll just save so much time
So
and
much time.
maximize their ability to better service their clients. And they've got happier tenants and happier owners. They've got happier tradespeople as well. It just makes the whole role a lot easier. And I suppose my vision is that instead of having 5 property managers, we'll have 4 doing the same, sort of levels, but probably a bit better. And with that saved salary, I want to pay my other 4 property managers a little bit more each. So it might be 10, 15 grand each above market, and we'll
Mm.
still be able to do that. And then hopefully between the efficiencies, and being a part of this space real estate, and hopefully we're known as the forward thinkers
Mm.
and being paid a bit more,
Yeah.
with the efficiencies, you want to stay in your role a lot longer. And that's pretty much the biggest issue that I've found in the industry is property managers leaving their roles.
Well, yeah, and it's really interesting because I, as a trainer now, I have to see both perspectives. But from
Mm.
me being a property manager before, this is years ago, I
Mm.
was managing 186 properties end to
Mm.
end, and I
Mm.
did that quite with ease.
Mm.
Now we look at, okay, we've got automation, we've got streamlined processes, we've got VAs, remote assistants, and yet we're seeing more property managers experience burnout. So I was like, where is this burnout
Yeah.
actually stemming from? And looking at ways that we can help them, give them more time and more fulfillment in their roles, because I'm sure if we eliminate those tasks like having to get keys cut or photocopying keys or
Mhm.
scanning in keys, which no one likes to do that, let's be honest, we're going to find that they will love more of the other aspects that
Mm.
is property management, and that is more of the client facing and the human connection side. I was at a
Exactly.
conference last week and one of the speakers, one person said in the audience, should we be worried about AI taking property managers' roles? And he
Mm,
said, essentially, yes. If we're not focusing on how we are really
mm,
being that asset management and evolving in the property management space, because it's not going to, in another
mm,
year or 2 years, property management isn't going to be like it is now. It's going to
mm,
be completely different. So we need to be looking at things like you're doing now in your business to
mm,
elevate the service that you provide. Because when I look at your service offerings, it's not
mm,
just on a property management, it's way beyond in terms of helping your investors buy more properties, have wealth in their properties, you
mm,
looking after your staff and making sure they're happy and they've got all of these innovative products like the
mm, mm.
marketing and things that you do, your QR codes, your virtual tours, that's exciting in the
Yeah,
space that we are in now in property management.
absolutely. And it's the idea of it is not to take away or to, take away from the personal services to get more personal service. And
Okay.
that's because, like you said, with the risk of AI sort of taking over roles and reducing and making the staff retention even worse in property management.
Hmm.
Um, what you've got to ask yourself is what do we have that AI doesn't? As in
Mhm.
what, and that's just that personal thinking. That's that out of the box thinking. It's that personal touch and relationships. I don't think AI can really, you
No, it
know,
won't.
um, give relationships. And that's I've spent a lot of time in. And if you ask any of my previous staff members that were in my team, it was such a great team, and I was so happy. I was devastated to leave.
Mm.
But if you ask them, that two of the biggest things that I would teach all the time was maintain your relationships, no matter what. Like, don't burn your bridges. If a tenant's upset you, or like, don't just go right. This is legislation. This is what's happening, and be the dictator.
Mm.
Work with them as best as you can, because if you burn that relationship, then people are going to be a lot less likely to work with you. If you can keep the relationship and be understanding, obviously there's a line that you don't,
Mm.
that where you need to cross the line, but it's very rare that you actually have to cross the line. You can go around it the right way and get better outcomes. The
Sure.
other thing is I suppose working with facts. That was my big thing. Was I would always say we work with facts. We work with facts. So before you do get into a situation where you're maybe erring on the side of dictating what's going on and being the I suppose the professional in the situation. Okay, you are behind in your rent. This is what's going to happen. This is what has to happen, or whatever it might be. Know your facts. Be certain of them. So work with facts, not with I think or maybes, or maybes, or I'm pretty sure or anything like that.
Language, yeah, yeah, so
Remind
important.
you, I remind myself of that every day. Still,
Yeah,
like go and make sure that you're actually certain of what you're about to say, because
yeah.
you lose credibility otherwise.
So I'm
Mm.
curious, with the awareness that you have and your focus on relationships and growth, like where does this stem from? There's got to be like, was there a moment in your life that has helped you
Yeah,
with your awareness and understanding of where you are now? Was it your upbringing? Like,
yeah. There was a pretty big pivotal point in my own life, and I suppose this kind of talks about. I think you were talking about values and personal values in the training recently, which was awesome.
mm,
Implemented a few things from that. Thank you very much.
well,
But one of the things that really got me thinking was, yeah, that pivotal moment was when I was about 15, 16. I'd grown up in housing, and I lived in a very messy house, and my life was like my surroundings and environment were all chaos. I missed a lot of school. I was smoking at a young age. It was not great.
mm,
And I remember my sister, who, yeah, best person in my world, she was taken off my mum at 4. So I didn't grow up with her. She's 7 years older than me. So, but she lives in Hobart, and she kept close to me through my whole life. And that was, I owe a lot to her for that. She's wonderful. So, but I remember I visited her at about 13, 14, and something snapped, and I saw that she had started to make a good life for herself. To me, then it was like she'd won the lottery. I
mm,
think she'd bought like a little unit, and it was like a modern unit. And to me, it was like, this is like the Taj Mahal. Like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I was like, holy crap. And I just thought that was the moment where I started to believe that I could, money's not everything. I'm not saying that it is everything. Let me be
mm.
clear.
Make a
But
change.
yeah, her environment was
Mm.
cool and collected for the most part. She's not so cool and collected, but her environment was. And she's successful. She was doing some great things. She had a good partner, and and just focusing on health and things. And I don't know, like it was just that was a bit of a pivotal moment for me when I thought I started to believe that if she can do that, I can do that because she's gone through just as much hardship as I have. So if she can do that, I believed that I could do that. And from that forward, I started working really hard no matter what I did.
Mhm.
I kind of thought, okay, I've seen like a shit life and I've seen a good life and I want the good life. You know what I mean? Yeah. So certainly stumbled across some hurdles through life thereafter, but I eventually, yeah, started
Thank you
working
for
really
sharing
hard.
that. I
Oh,
just,
that's,
I always love, I think it's important because the story behind why you do what you do now, right? And
mm,
I think by sharing your story, you motivate other people as well, and connecting to, well, why do you do what you do? And you said you love property management, like you love this space, yeah? So it's
yeah,
how,
yeah.
and I'm always curious to be like, well, how did you get to love this space? Because I feel like in property management, we need to encourage that more,
Mm,
right? We've been put in the corner or been behind sales, and now it's we want to
mm.
be able to help other people love
You get, yeah.
profession.
And I always say this: if I'm interviewing a person, if I do a lot of work in the sort of pre-employment space where people are wanting to, like I'll say, hey, who wants to get into real estate? And it's always real estate. I say not property management because we're like, oh, property management.
Yeah.
And I sit down with them and then I start advocating for property management. But I talk about it's well, you have the potential to earn quite a lot of money in both property management and sales. In my opinion, it probably a little bit more challenging in property management. So take that as you will. But what you learn though, and the relationships you make in property management are invaluable. Like you get so much out of that. That I've got, yeah, I could talk all day, but that's what you're actually getting. Who gets to get up and give someone a home and
Mm,
then go and have a coffee with a client and lease a property for someone that whoever otherwise would have had to remortgage or sell
mm,
and gets to see someone's mistakes in investment who or meet someone that's got 15, 20, 30 properties who gets to project manage a whole renovation. Like, yeah, it can be, I struggle, but the amount of knowledge and stuff you get out of it is just that. I love that. I really love that.
I just get
And that'll flow
emotional.
through
I just get
pardon?
emotional you saying that. Like, no, honestly, I think that we need more of that.
Yeah.
And that's just the care. And like I said, the first time I met you, you can really feel that and sense that. So, I'm that's one snippet that I'm going to be putting and sharing once this podcast comes live because yeah, you just honestly, maybe it's the hormones too, but honestly it's made me emotional because literally though that is the importance of what we do, right? And I think it's time that we take that seriously, that the impact that we have on people's lives and literally dealing with their homes, because in property management it is not just all about the landlord, right? And your growth, your organic growth, I'm sure has been because of the impact that you've had on people and the relationships that you truly care about would be a
Yeah.
testament to that, and
Yeah.
why people referring you their clients.
I spent a lot of time, thank you. I spent a lot of time in that 6 months, especially thinking about what our core values are. And I never really, I don't know, I never really saw core values as this important thing. It was just this thing on the wall, right? I will say that you do, or I did,
Mhm.
start really thinking about why they're important when I started a business, not for the sake of it, but actually something to go back to. And I
Mm.
nailed it down after literally like 6 months of thinking. I nailed it down to genuine and passionate. And what I mean by that, it probably doesn't mean a lot to people, but what it means to me is that you are good for the sake of being good. So you are just good for the sake of being good. And real estate's one of those things where you're going to be some things are going to be put in front of you, and you can do the right thing or
Mm.
the wrong thing. Like, and it might be a little wrong thing, it might be a big wrong thing. But if you're good for the sake of being good and you do the right thing, I think that goes a long way in real estate. People can see through your crap. So you just can't. Like, how many people do you meet in real estate? You can just tell that they're full of it. But if you're
Yeah,
just genuine,
no, yeah.
yeah. So I think that is key for being successful in real estate. And passionate is driven.
Mm.
That's the other thing I think you need. You can't just treat it like a 9 to 5 job. That's my opinion. I mean, there's some roles in real estate that suit that, but for the most part, if you want to be successful in real estate, you've got to be driven. You got to get up and think, well, yeah, and you're going to be whether you like it or not. If you're in the industry long enough, you're going to be thinking about it when you go to sleep and when you wake up. You just are. All of your
Yeah.
friends are going to ask you about it at barbecues, and going to become your life a little bit.
I so relate to that because I remember one of my directors said to me, you're always on. Like he's like, you're always on. Whether we were just at a cafe or I would listen to conversations because I was so consciously aware
Mm,
because I was passionate about property management. It wasn't
exactly.
just a job to me. It was legitimately, I was excited to talk about it. I was excited to share what I was doing,
Mm,
who I was helping. And also the non-glorified parts to our role was also things that
mm,
I shared because I think more
mm,
people need to understand the things that we navigate through every single day that helps make up our profession. And we get hit pretty hard. So I
mm,
guess
mm.
I would love to know, you've got big visions and big dreams because you are a person who's very innovative and you're really passionate about staff retention and
Mhm.
growth. So what's next for this space real estate?
Yeah, it's funny. It's such early days, and I have to keep reminding myself of that. I think 72 properties since launch, and like I said, almost all of those are not past clients, they're new clients. So it's just
Very
like
good.
at the moment, I'm almost my peak is about 85 before I put someone on. I was planning
Mhm.
on putting someone on the 2nd of June. Now I had a conversation with them this morning, and it's now going to be about the 15th of May.
Yeah,
We'll see.
push it forward. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm like, I need you now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's okay. I want to keep control and offer good service still and not drop that. But yeah, to answer your question, look, I want it to be a statewide thing. And I think that the digital locks and the virtual tours, and I could talk all day about our processes and communications and templates and automations and things that help us do our role remotely more and have more time to do things physically.
Mhm.
Um, that will enable us. So that's the foundation for us to be a little bit more statewide. So, look, I want to go and open an office in Devonport is probably the next opportunity, just because I think there's a huge opportunity to. There's no one, in my opinion, and respect to everyone in Devonport in that area, but
Mhm.
pretty much the whole state. But Devonport, especially, I think there's no huge offering for owners and tenants or landlords, tenants, but also employees. There's some really great people in that space, and there's not really any great options, and they're either leaving the industry or bouncing around each agency. And so I think that's what I want to do in 3 to 5 years. Um, our shorter term goals is open a sales department. That's been on the card since day one, but when is the question? I don't want to do it too quickly, and property management's growing so quickly. I just don't need to.
Mhm.
Plus, I really do like the relationship we've got with some other sales agents. So
Yeah.
once we open a sales agency, that'll kind of, you know, cut that off a little bit.
Well, I think if you stick with your value of being genuine, there's got to be that transparency,
Yeah, absolutely.
which
Yeah,
is that client you would have. I'm just thinking out loud, some sort of agreement. If they
yeah,
referred you that client, then that client goes back to them, which is
yeah,
no
absolutely.
different to partnerships that you would have with other people, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's it. And look, I will say as a little note on that as well, there's other property management departments or sorry, departments and agencies in like Launceston in my little pocket who are brilliant. And I'll say that to clients. So if I have a client that comes to me and says that they're with X agency, and I'll say, well, unless they're extremely unhappy, stay with them. They're great. Like
Mhm.
we're probably a little bit better, I might say, for some reasons, but they're brilliant, and I've always done that. I think it comes in roundabouts.
Yes.
And those particular people who are wonderful people who are sort of just as passionate as I am about it and do the right thing for the right reasons
Mm.
have been the people that have helped me as well. I can call them and say, hey, I've got this tricky one. What would you do? Or trust accounting. That was a massive thing for me to learn, So leaning on them and saying, hey, how did you go? And even them just saying, hey, you're going to be okay. It's all right. Like
Yeah.
it's scary, but you'll be right. After 3, 4 months in, you'll piece of cake. And it is. And now it's fine. Now I'm so fine. So
Yeah, because you did the work though. You were consistent. You put yourself out there, which is not always easy to do when you are opening a business because there's like no other option. It's like all in. And yes, it's scary, but on the other side of that fear and that scariness, like look at where you are now and the life you're creating and the opportunities that you're giving other people too.
yeah, I can't wait. That's the right now goal is to build. I mean, it's all about self retention, and I've got no one here. So
Yeah.
I want to fill some seats, and and I want to see other property managers on signboards and
Mm.
loving what they're doing, and and just experiencing a little bit different role and having the flexibility in their roles, and
Yeah.
just being proud of it, owning it, getting out
Yes.
there.
I
Yeah,
love that.
I want to do that. I want to be that difference.
You
Yeah,
already are. So I think, but that language that you said that you'd use, put it back on yourself because you already are, and it's really truly yeah, admirable and what you're doing already in your space. And I think what I love is how open you are. I have told so many people about you already, and I can't wait
thank you.
for more eyes to come on you, especially those from Australia. Having a look at what you're doing in Taz, because you are already so much more advanced than a lot of businesses I know.
It's interesting. People need to start with, in my opinion, a Facebook page. Property managers directors need to stop tightening the belt
Mm,
and constraining their or restraining their property managers. I
yeah,
understand the risks and the concerns, but get ahead of it or get left behind. That's my
yeah. Because
opinion.
how many
That's
do you have in your Facebook page now?
I've got about 4,500 on the Facebook page,
Incredible.
which is not huge, but it's bloody hard to build. People don't care about properties for the most part, so you got to be pushing it.
Mm,
I've got a group that's renting in Launceston, so that has 10,000 members, which is
wow.
solely owned by me, and I can use that. And then Instagram, I think there's 3,500 or something ish, maybe less,
Incredible.
2,100, somewhere
Yeah.
in that realm. Yeah.
I always say that Facebook isn't dead because majority of people are on Facebook. That was the first platform that
Yeah.
people were utilizing, and the older generational people, which are still heavily the investors, right? Are
Mm.
on Facebook. It's very easy to connect and form groups on there.
Yeah.
So I think it's very smart that that's still a place that you are playing with, as well as you are
Mm.
on Instagram and whatnot now, and your marketing. So I think that's really great that you identified that.
Yeah, it's just getting into rhythm, and yeah, and trying to keep up with it and whatnot. It's definitely a big listing tool. Is
Mm.
that I can say I've got a couple of things that other agencies don't have, and it's going to take them 7 years to do it. So
Hmm.
they're not going to get it tomorrow. I can say,
Yeah.
well, we're digital locks. Some agencies might start offering that tomorrow, but they can't build a Facebook page, or not necessarily, not one as actually as engaging. I
Yeah.
think don't be knocked down when you are building it, thinking that, I don't have enough followers or I'm not getting enough engagement. Just keep at it, because it's amazing how many times you go to an appraisal or a viewing and people go, oh, I saw you on Facebook, and you think, but I got no likes on that. It doesn't matter. People will see
Yeah.
it. It's subliminal marketing. They'll see it. It'll pop up. Someone will talk about it. You don't really know. It's not always it's not always linear the way that it is. It's just, it comes and
No. Yeah.
pops up. It's definitely helped me.
Thank you so much for one, being vulnerable, two, actually coming on today and sharing. Just there's so many takeaways, and I really hope that a lot of people go on and check you out. I'll put the details in the podcast and on the YouTube video. Have a look at your website, and I'm sure, because I know you said you're open book, like message him and have a chat.
Absolutely.
All about being able to have more connections in the industry. So I just want to say thank you so much for being so passionate. We need more people like you in our profession. So keep doing what you're doing, and we'd love to get you on in another 6 months' time and see where you're at and how
Love
things are
that.
going.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. I appreciate it.
my absolute pleasure. And for those listening or watching today, like always, keep rising.